Once upon a time, in a small village in Indonesia, a young couple named Dewey and Adi was getting ready for their wedding. They had been planning for months and everything was set for the big day. But as fate would have it, things started to go wrong. First, the groom woke up with a terrible case of food poisoning. He had been eating street food the night before and it had not agreed with him. He was in no condition to walk down the aisle, let alone say his vows. The bride Dewey was beside herself with worry, but Adi reassured her that everything will be all right. Next, the wedding cake, which was being made by the groom's mother, caught fire in the kitchen. She had been baking it all night, but had fallen asleep and left the oven on. The cake was completely destroyed and there was no time to make another one. The mother was inconsolable and the whole family was in a state of despair. As if that wasn't enough, the wedding photographer didn't show up. He had been in an accident on the way to the wedding and was unable to make it. The couple had to rely on the guests to take pictures, but the quality was not the same. Dewey's best friend, a budding photographer, stepped in and took some beautiful photos of the couple. Just as the ceremony was about to begin, the bride's grandfather passed away. She was devastated and didn't know what to do. The wedding was put on hold as the family dealt with their loss. It was a somber day for everyone and the mood was very low. Finally, as the wedding party was leaving the ceremony, a local shop caught fire. The entire village came out to watch as the flames consumed the building. The wedding party tried to help put out the fire, but it was too late. The shop belonged to an old family friend, who was inconsolable and the fire was a huge blow to his business. In the midst of all this chaos, something unexpected happened. A taxi driver named Kurniawan pulled up outside and was pressing the car horn. He had been hired to take the wedding guests to the reception. Kurniawan, who had been driving a taxi for over 20 years, realized he had a flat tire. So he had to get out and fix it, which took about 15 minutes and almost made them late. Waiting out in the muddy streets of this small Indonesian village, Dewey did everything she could to keep her wedding dress clean. After a few more moments, the car tire was fixed. Despite all the setbacks, Dewey and Adi were finally on their way. They were determined to make the best of a bad situation and enjoy their special day. The reception was a hit, with the guests having a great time and the food delivered Kurniawan was a huge hit. They all looked back at the events of that crazy day with a sense of humor and a newfound appreciation for the importance not letting bad things bother you. Being with family is what matters. At the end of the night, Kurniawan drove Dewey and Adi 1 hour down the road to a beachside hotel, where they would have their honeymoon. When they arrived in their hotel room, Dewey and Adi sat down and took a breath. They looked back at the events of that day with a sense of humor and a newfound appreciation for how difficult life can be sometimes. They realized it's so important to focus on the positives and enjoy being with family. They both went to bed and fell fast asleep. Little did they know, the best was yet to come. The next morning, they woke up to a beautiful day. The sun was shining brightly, illuminating the room with a warm golden glow. The birds were singing melodiously outside the window, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers. They decided to spend the day exploring the local area and enjoying the great outdoors. They started off by taking a hike in the nearby hills. The views were breathtaking, with lush green fields and rolling hills as far as the eye could see. The wildflowers were in full bloom, adding splashes of vibrant colors to the landscape. The children had a blast running through the fields, chasing each other and picking wildflowers. They even came across a small waterfall and had a picnic lunch by the side of the crystal-clear stream. The water sparkled in the sunlight, and they could hear the gentle sound of the waterfall in the background. After the hike, they headed to the local farmers market. They were amazed at the variety of fresh produce and handmade goods on offer. The fruits and vegetables were so fresh, they almost looked like they had been picked that morning. They bought some fresh fruits, vegetables, and even picked up some homemade jams and jellies. The aroma of fresh baked bread and homemade pastries filled the air. They were so tempted to try a sample of everything. As the day came to a close, they decided to have a lovely dinner at the hotel. Remembering how grateful they were for their family, Dewey invited her family to come for dinner. Dewey's father fired up the grill and the family chatted and laughed as they cooked up their feast. The aroma of sizzling meat and vegetables filled the air, making everyone's mouth water. The father expertly tended to the grill, flipping the burgers and hot dogs to perfection. The mother prepared the sides, a colorful array of salads and roasted vegetables. The children helped set the table, laying out plates, utensils, and napkins. As they sat down to eat, they couldn't help but feel grateful for the beautiful day they had just shared. The food was delicious, the conversation was lively, and the laughter was abundant. The burgers were juicy and cooked to perfection, the hot dogs were crispy on the outside and juicy on the inside, the salads were fresh and tangy, and the roasted vegetables were delicately flavored and tender. The family enjoyed the meal, savoring every bite and taking the time to appreciate the flavors and textures. After dinner, they sat outside and watched the stars twinkle in the sky. The sky was clear and the stars were shining brightly. They felt content and at peace, knowing that they had made the most of their time together. They sat in comfortable silence, taking in the beauty of the night sky, and enjoying the warm summer breeze. The fire from the barbecue was still burning, and the embers were glowing, casting a warm light on the backyard. They sat there for a while, lost in their thoughts, cherishing the memories of the day, but then get ready to head home, as they both have to go back to work in the morning. A week went by and they had to head back home to their normal lives. Adi went back to work. He was excited to see his colleagues and dive back into his work, but little did he know, his nightmare was about to begin again. As soon as he arrived at the office, things started to go wrong. First, his computer wouldn't turn on, causing him to lose valuable time trying to fix the problem. Then, when he finally got his computer working, he realized that his files were missing and his backups had been corrupted. This set him back even further and added stress to his already chaotic day. Next, he received an email from a client that was less than pleased with the work he had done before his vacation. The client demanded revisions and threatened to take their business elsewhere if they weren't made promptly. The groom felt crushed, as he had put a lot of effort into the project and now it seemed like it was all for nothing. He tried to make the revisions as quickly as possible, but his computer continued to malfunction and he found himself constantly frustrated and behind schedule. To make matters worse, his team was short-staffed and he was left to handle multiple tasks on his own, putting him under even more pressure. As the day went on, things only got worse. A fire alarm went off in the building, causing a temporary evacuation and further delaying his work. To make matters worse, he received a call from his wife that his father-in-law had passed away. He was devastated, feeling like everything was falling apart and he couldn't catch a break. He made it through the day, but it was a struggle. He felt like he was back to square one, and all the progress he had made on his honeymoon had been undone. He couldn't wait to go home and be with his wife and family, but he knew that the next day would bring another set of challenges at work. Despite the difficult day at work, Adi returned home to his wife, who had prepared a beautiful meal for him. She had set the table with their best china and lit candles, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere. The delicious aroma of home-cooked food filled the air, and he couldn't help but feel grateful for such a thoughtful and loving wife. As they sat down to eat, his wife noticed the stress on his face and asked him about his day. He didn't want to burden her with the details, so he simply said it had been a tough day. But his wife could see that he needed to talk, so she listened attentively as he recounted his difficulties at work. She reassured him that everything would work out and that they were in this together. She reminded him of the beautiful time they had just shared on their honeymoon and how they would make new memories together. Her words and her love comforted him, and he couldn't help but feel grateful for such a wonderful partner in life. As they enjoyed the delicious meal together, they talked and laughed, and he felt his stress and worries start to melt away. The food was delicious, and it was clear that his wife had put a lot of effort into preparing it. They talked about their plans for the future.